Get that oxygen tank out of here! Beverly yelled through 6-year-old Mia's bedroom window before sneaking back at 2 a.m. with a plan. Armed with industrial toxins, she poured dangerous chemicals into the disabled child's heating vent. What she didn't know was that Mia's dad, Fire Chief David Chen, would immediately recognize signs of a chemical attack. Before diving into the full story, comment below where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more powerful real-life stories. Mia had lived her life tethered to oxygen. Born with severe lung disease, she relied on medical equipment just to survive. But to Beverly, it wasn't life support, it was an ugly disruption that ruined the neighborhood. While Mia slept peacefully in her hospital bed surrounded by stuffed animals and crayon drawings, the gentle hum of her oxygen machine keeping her alive, Beverly fumed. "I don't care if she's sick," she shouted. "That equipment doesn't belong in a residential area." Inside, David, an experienced fire chief and proud father, heard Beverly's rants. He stepped outside. "Mrs. Mitchell, please, Mia's asleep. She needs rest." Beverly's reply: "I don't care if she's dying. That machine lowers property values. The noise, the tubes, the trucks, it's like a hospital zone." David clenched his fists. "That machine is the reason my daughter's alive." "Then she belongs in a hospital," Beverly snapped. "Normal kids don't need machines. She's defective." For months, Beverly terrorized the Chens through the HOA. She filed complaints about medical deliveries, the wheelchair ramp, even the nurses who came to care for Mia. She told neighbors, "Those nurses disturb our peace. Their house looks like a clinic." She tried organizing petitions to evict the family. While most neighbors refused to join, her resentment only grew. "I've been patient enough," Beverly hissed during an HOA meeting. "The noise, the trucks, the nurses, it never ends. This isn't a neighborhood anymore." But that night, she crossed the line, from hatred to attempted murder. "You know what?" she said with a chilling grin. "I'm tired of seeing that oxygen tank every day. It's time to teach them a lesson." David's instincts kicked in. Her tone wasn't angry, it was dangerous. "Mrs. Mitchell, what are you talking about?" "You'll see," she said coldly. "By morning, you'll understand, disabled freaks don't belong here." At 2 a.m., Beverly crept across the Chen's yard with a stolen container of industrial cleaning chemicals. She'd done her research, knowing that mixing certain gases near oxygen could have fatal consequences. Her plan: poison Mia's room just enough to force the family to relocate. She pried open a basement window beneath Mia's room and poured the chemical mixture into the air vent. The fumes rose directly into the sleeping child's room. "Sweet dreams, little freak," Beverly whispered. "Let's see if they still think you belong here." She had no idea her actions were about to be discovered by a top emergency responder. Inside, the toxic gas mixed with oxygen to form a lethal blend. Mia's medical monitor screamed an alert at 2:47 a.m. She awoke choking, lungs on fire, eyes watering, lips turning blue. "Daddy," she gasped. "I can't breathe." She tried reaching the emergency button but collapsed, crawling toward the door as pain overtook her small body. Help me, the air." David bolted upright. He heard the alarms. Something was wrong, very wrong. Racing into her room, he opened the door, and the scent hit him instantly. Years of training told him what it was. "Chemical attack," he shouted, grabbing Mia and racing outside. "Someone released poison gas inside our home." Cradling his unconscious daughter, he radioed for help. "This is Fire Chief Chen. Chemical weapons attack on a disabled child. I need paramedics, hazmat, police, now." The dispatcher hesitated. "Chief, did you say chemical weapons?" "Confirmed. My daughter's been gassed in her sleep. This is attempted murder." Within 3 minutes, the first sirens wailed. Red and blue lights bathed the Chen home as fire trucks, ambulances, and hazmat crews flooded the scene. "Chief, what's the situation?" asked Captain Martinez, arriving in full protective gear. "Someone poured industrial chemicals into our ventilation system," David said, gripping Mia tightly. "She's been breathing in poison for at least 15 minutes." Hazmat teams fanned out to assess the air quality, while paramedics worked to stabilize Mia. The readings were devastating. "Chief," Captain Martinez radioed, "we found the source. Someone used toxic industrial-grade cleaners and funneled them into your duct system through a basement window. This was intentional." Dr. Rebecca Stone, a chemical specialist on the hazmat team, examined the data. Whoever did this chose chemicals that specifically attack lung tissue. This was designed to inflict maximum harm on someone with compromised breathing. They knew exactly what they were doing. David's hands trembled as he looked at his daughter, unconscious and struggling. This wasn't random. This was an attempted assassination on a disabled child. Detective Rodriguez joined the investigation. "Sir, we found discarded chemical containers in a neighbor's trash bin. Plus, printed research on gas poisoning in people with respiratory illness." David already knew. "Which neighbor?" "Beverly Mitchell. We're securing a warrant now." The story exploded across social media. HOA member poisons disabled child, blared the headlines. Beverly had unknowingly unleashed a storm. News vans arrived as responders raced to decontaminate the home and treat Mia's injuries. The public was outraged. Inside the hospital, paramedic Sarah Johnson rushed Mia into the pediatric ICU. "She suffered major chemical burns in her lungs," she told Dr. Patricia Williams, head of pediatric emergency medicine. "She has severe respiratory distress." Dr. Williams examined the scans. "Her lungs are inflamed, her throat scorched. The damage is extensive. Combined with her lung condition, this is life-threatening." David's voice cracked. "What are her chances?" "We're doing everything we can. The next 48 hours are critical." Mia was hooked to a ventilator as doctors flushed out the toxins. Monitors beeped rhythmically, tracking her weakened heartbeat and labored oxygen levels. Dr. Williams returned with a grim warning. "If Mia survives, there may be lasting brain damage from lack of oxygen. Her lung tissue has been scarred." David sat at her bedside, gripping her tiny hand. Machines kept her alive, but it was Mia's spirit that had always fought hardest. Nurses came in and out checking vitals. In the pediatric ICU, other children struggled with natural illnesses. None were there because someone tried to kill them. Mia stirred. Her lips were cracked, her eyes barely open. "Daddy," she whispered weakly. "Why does my chest hurt?" David leaned closer, fighting tears. "Because someone did something terrible, sweetheart. But I promise you're safe now." She reached for him. "Why would anyone want to hurt me?" "I don't know," he said, heartbroken. "But they'll never touch you again." The investigation moved rapidly. David's status in emergency services helped coordinate a task force of detectives, hazmat specialists, and federal agents. Detective Rodriguez delivered the first wave of evidence. Her fingerprints are on the basement window. Security footage from 3 homes shows her sneaking around at 2 a.m. And inside her office, we found floor plans of your home, Mia's medical routine, and printed research on gas attacks. FBI agent Sarah Thompson stepped in. She had search history on how to poison someone's oxygen supply, how to kill with cleaning chemicals, and attacks targeting people with lung disease. Beverly's husband, Robert, broke down when agents confronted him. "I had no idea," he said, shaking. "She always complained, but I never thought she'd go this far." "She stole chemicals from your company," Agent Thompson explained. "One she selected specifically to harm someone with respiratory issues." Robert cooperated immediately, handing over receipts and surveillance logs. The deeper authorities dug, the worse it got. Beverly had mapped Mia's bedroom. She had written notes calculating how much toxin was needed to make the child sick enough to move. Her obsession was undeniable. When police arrived to arrest Beverly, she protested. "I was protecting the neighborhood. That freak was ruining everything with her ugly machines." Detective Rodriguez snapped, "You tried to murder a child with toxic gas." "She didn't belong here," Beverly screamed. "Kids like that should be in hospitals, not in beautiful homes." Even hardened officers flinched at her cruelty. The arrest sent shockwaves through the community. HOA Karen attempts to murder disabled child became a trending topic. Every station covered it. Neighbors were appalled. They hadn't realized the depth of her hatred. But it wasn't the first time. Digging into her past, reporters uncovered more victims. Beverly had targeted 4 other families. The Rodriguez family moved after she got their son's wheelchair declared a code violation. The Thompsons were driven out when she campaigned against their daughter's service dog. The Williams family left after a barrage of noise complaints over autism therapy sessions. But this time, she'd gone too far. In the hospital, Mia fought to recover. She remained on oxygen, but doctors were cautiously optimistic. "She's stable," Dr. Williams said. "But her lung function is permanently reduced. She'll need advanced care for the rest of her life." David sat by her side, overwhelmed with grief and fury. Beverly's actions hadn't just tried to end his daughter's life, they'd robbed her of a future of better breathing. But she wasn't broken. Not Mia. The courtroom was filled wall to wall. Disability rights advocates, families of special needs children, and emergency workers all came to witness justice. The trial of Beverly Mitchell, the woman who tried to kill a disabled child with toxic gas, had become a national flashpoint. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence, security footage, chemical traces, and even Beverly's own notes detailing how she planned to poison Mia in her sleep. But the most heart-wrenching testimony came from Fire Chief David Chen himself. "Your Honor," David began, his voice calm but heavy, "this woman didn't just threaten my daughter's life. She carried out a chemical weapons attack against a 6-year-old girl who was asleep in her hospital bed." He paused, eyes locked on Beverly. She didn't act in a moment of madness. She spent weeks researching how to harm a child with lung disease. She stole chemicals. She mapped out our home. She waited until the dead of night and poured poison into my daughter's room. He clenched the witness stand. Mia was sleeping. Peacefully. Safely. She woke up choking on fumes. My daughter, who already fights for every breath, was attacked in her own bed because of hatred. And now she'll suffer permanent damage. Because of this woman. Gasps and muffled sobs filled the room. Even the judge, Margaret Foster, a mother of a disabled child herself, fought to maintain composure. During sentencing, she looked Beverly straight in the eye. "In 2 decades on this bench, I have never seen such premeditated cruelty against a child," she said. "You waited until dark. You poured toxic chemicals into a heating vent. You targeted a defenseless girl with medical needs. You planned this with precision, and you have shown zero remorse." She took a deep breath. "Mrs. Mitchell, your actions constitute not only attempted murder but an act of domestic chemical terrorism. You are a danger to every vulnerable family in this country." The room fell silent as the sentence was delivered. "I hereby sentence you to life in prison, without the possibility of parole." Beverly went pale. "Life? I was just trying to protect the neighborhood." "You tried to murder a child with poison gas," Judge Foster replied. "You're lucky we can't impose a harsher sentence." As Beverly was led away in chains, she glanced back at Mia and David. Her face was twisted in defiance, not remorse. But the world saw her for what she truly was. News headlines erupted, "HOA leader sentenced to life for chemical attack on disabled girl." It wasn't just national, it became global. Talk shows debated the rise of hate crimes against disabled children. Editorials called for new protections. Protesters rallied. And Congress took action. In record time, legislators passed the Mia's Law, a federal bill classifying chemical attacks on disabled individuals as acts of domestic terrorism, punishable by mandatory life sentences. The president signed it in a White House ceremony, with David and Mia by his side. "No child," he said, "should ever be attacked for the equipment that keeps them alive." Back home, Riverside transformed. The community that once turned a blind eye to Beverly's harassment now stood united in support of the Chen family. Beverly's arrest had forced everyone to reflect on their silence. A new HOA board was elected, made up of nurses, parents of disabled children, and compassionate citizens. Their first act, repealing all previous anti-medical ordinances and launching the Medical Access and Inclusion Initiative, which welcomed families with unique health needs. Fundraisers were held to cover Mia's ongoing care. Neighbors showed up with food, cards, gifts, and donations. Mia's ramp was rebuilt, this time with the community's hands and hearts. A memorial garden for children with chronic illnesses was planted in Riverside Park, with a special plaque dedicated to Mia's courage. Mia herself, though still healing, became a symbol of strength. Despite reduced lung function and increased medical needs, she kept smiling. "I'm still here," she told reporters, "and that's what matters. The mean lady tried to scare me away, but I'm not going anywhere." 6 months after the attack, Mia spoke at a national pediatric conference for chronically ill children. Wearing her nasal cannula and seated in her wheelchair, she faced a crowd of hundreds. "Sometimes people hate what they don't understand," she said into the microphone, her voice small but strong. "They see machines and tubes and think we're scary. But our equipment helps us live." She looked around the room. "We shouldn't be ashamed of what keeps us alive. Our medical gear isn't ugly. It's amazing. If someone says we don't belong, that's their problem, not ours." The room erupted into applause. Many were crying: parents, doctors, other children. Mia had done what few could, turned trauma into empowerment. But while Mia found strength, Beverly was discovering isolation. Her notoriety in prison made her a target. Inmates have their own code, and people who hurt children are at the bottom. She was placed in solitary confinement for her own safety. Alone. No visits. No contact. No control. Her husband divorced her and moved away, changing his and their children's last names. They refused any further communication. Her appeals were quickly denied. The evidence had been overwhelming, and her cold demeanor during the trial made it clear this wasn't a mistake. It was hatred weaponized. Years passed. Beverly's name faded from headlines, but not from memory. Inmates avoided her. Guards barely acknowledged her. Alone in a cell, she had nothing but time, and the crushing weight of what she had done. Her hatred had cost her everything: her family, her freedom, her identity. Her husband remarried. Her children refused to speak her name. To the world, Beverly Mitchell was no longer an HOA leader. She was a cautionary tale. But Mia's story was just beginning. Despite the damage to her lungs, Mia recovered with astonishing strength. Her breathing would never be the same, but her spirit remained unbreakable. With the support of the community and her family, she started a foundation dedicated to helping children who rely on emergency medical equipment. She called it Breathe Free. Its mission: to replace equipment destroyed in disasters or attacks, and to educate neighborhoods about medical inclusion. "No child should ever feel unsafe in their own home," Mia said. "Everyone deserves to breathe safely." The foundation grew quickly. With donations pouring in from across the country, Mia helped hundreds of families replace stolen or broken oxygen machines, feeding tubes, and wheelchairs. She became a national advocate, speaking to Congress, partnering with hospitals, and even inspiring legislation for safer housing standards. On the 5-year anniversary of the attack, Riverside held a neighborhood celebration titled "One Breath, One Community." The event promoted inclusion, medical awareness, and resilience. And its guest of honor was 11-year-old Mia Chen. She rolled onto the stage in her wheelchair, oxygen tubes in place, heart full. "5 years ago," she began, "someone tried to hurt me because I needed help breathing. But today, I'm still here, and I'm not just breathing, I'm thriving." She looked out at the cheering crowd. "We've learned that medical gear isn't scary, it's beautiful. It means someone is surviving. And I've learned that forgiveness is stronger than hate." The audience went silent. "I forgave Mrs. Mitchell a long time ago," Mia continued. "Not because what she did was okay, but because staying angry would have kept hurting me. She's in prison forever, but I'm here, surrounded by people who love me exactly as I am." Applause erupted. Tears streamed down faces. News crews captured every word. David Chen stood at the edge of the crowd, watching his daughter. Pride swelled in his chest. That night, when sirens screamed and toxins filled their home, he'd feared he might lose her. But instead, she became a beacon. Beverly had tried to erase Mia. Instead, she amplified her. David reflected, "My daughter turned a weapon of hate into a mission of hope. That's what real strength is." Mia's story reached far beyond Riverside. Schools used it to teach about empathy. Police academies referenced it in bias training. Disability rights groups cited it as a turning point in public understanding. Her face appeared on magazine covers. "The girl who forgave hate," read one. From poison to purpose, said another. Children wrote her letters. One said, I use a ventilator and was scared to go outside. But now I'm not. You're my hero. Doctors cited her case in medical journals, calling her survival miraculous, her emotional recovery even more astounding. In contrast, Beverly remained locked away. She received no letters, no visitors, no redemption arc. Her prison cell held no pictures, no laughter, no future. Just the echo of her decisions. Once, she had power over a community. Now, she lived in total obscurity, forgotten by the world, remembered only in the context of her crime. Years later, one journalist asked Mia during an interview, "What would you say to Beverly now?" Mia paused. "I hope she's learned something. I hope she knows that kids like me aren't scary. We're just trying to live." The interviewer nodded. "Do you hate her?" Mia shook her head. "No. I feel sad for her. She let fear and ignorance control her life. And now she's lost everything because she didn't try to understand." The story that began with a scream at a window ended with a message of compassion. Justice had been served, but something bigger had been born. Mia Chen wasn't just a survivor, she was a force. Her story inspired new laws, stronger protections, and a national conversation about the dignity of medically fragile children. But more than anything, it reminded people what real courage looks like. It looks like a little girl fighting to breathe through poisoned air. It looks like a father rushing through toxic fumes to save his child. It looks like a community rising after its silence nearly cost a life. And it looks like forgiveness. The woman who tried to erase Mia had only succeeded in proving her strength. In the end, Beverly Mitchell's name would be a warning. But Mia Chen's name would be a legacy. Not of weakness, but of unstoppable resilience. Not of sickness, but of healing. Not of hate, but of hope.